for you, for those interested. There was one change of nationality today, one athlete in view of the Olympic Games Paris 2024. In accordance with Rule 41 of the Olympic Charter, Georgia Rose Brown in gymnastics will change from Australian to New Zealand nationality. And then just a very brief mention to tell you in passing that the guidelines on athlete expression for the Olympic Games Paris 2024 were approved today. The guidelines have been approved by the EB following recommendations from the IOC's Athletes Commission. They'll be published on ioc.org soon. I won't go into the details, but they follow very closely, very much the changes that we had in Tokyo for those that remember them, but they will be on the website very shortly. Okay, so let's start the real meat of the press conference with Christophe Duby, Executive Director for the Games, who will run us through a couple of the main topics that were discussed in this, as I say, short Executive Board meeting today. Christophe, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. Now you're young athletes, and you're standing here during your training, and you're in one of the venues used for the Olympic Games. You have the full look, you have already camera platform, you have a mix zone, and you have seen probably the numbers of spectators that will come into these venues, and I'll get to the numbers afterwards. So can I say this must be a dream coming true for all these athletes that are with us. It's really youth sports at its best. For many, actually, it's a stepping stone into the future. And we were reminded this afternoon during the Executive Board that actually 341 previous participants of YOGs participating in Beijing, and they collected 53 medals. 53. So this is really what it is, a formidable stepping stone into a future career. Training, as I said, has started across many of the venues, and can I say they have done a truly good job at the organizing committee level. It looks really splendid. We have had very positive reports from the athletes themselves, of course, international federations, NOC officials. So at venue level, we are on a really good track. Tomorrow we have the opening ceremony. It's always this unique moment where all the athletes are behind their flags, but also because it's the opportunity for the host nation to showcase their culture, history, and especially future. It's also for them to host the world, and that welcoming of a opening ceremony for all participants, and starting with the athletes, is something that they will remember. The same will be for the other younger participants in the audience, since we will have a full house. Can I say it will be, because I've seen the preview, it's a really, really exciting show that we will have tomorrow in the Oval. Before starting, and I'm certain the number will pick up, but 350,000 tickets have been distributed. You can really say that in terms of public engagement, it's already a success. Some events are amazingly popular here in Korea. For others, we can probably still need a little boost to have a true outstanding cheering in the venue. So I'm certain that the organizing committee and others, including the Pyeongchang Foundation, will continue their great work to mobilize the youth in particular. Not only will we have full crowds in some of the events, but also in the park, which is just next door, where activities will be offered to the younger that will be visiting the park. Some olders too. We might try a few, actually. It's a really good activity that they plan in the park. Finally, we arrived about a week ago. At least I did probably a few more days. And what you see is truly legacy in action. And it is particularly pleasing to see the venues. As I said, we visited and they look really great. But also we were here the previous weekend where we had a lot of tourists visiting Gangneung here, and that is based on the train, the infrastructure that connects Seoul to Gangneung. But finally, what we can also see is if we are at that level of preparation with the organizing committees, because over time they have collected a tremendous expertise. So can I say that these yogs do really make sense? Second topic that was covered with respect to the games, Mark, is Milano Cortina. DEB this afternoon adopted the accommodation allocation plan. It seems very technical, but why do I start with this? Because it's really a kickstart of the operation, knowing where you will reside, being a journalist, being any of the company that will operate the games, the organizing committees and others. It's really a sign that it is getting extremely close. We have been informed by the organizing committees that they have signed recently new deals. It's very pleasing as well, with a number of others in the pipe, which you know, nowadays in the current context, it's always very positive when it piles up to a level of 525 million at the end of the effort. We also heard a report regarding the venues. So on this front, there is on the 26th of January a very symbolic step, which will be the signature of the event delivery agreements with Bormio, Val di Fiemme, Anterselva and Cortina. Why does it matter? Because as we promoted through Agenda 2020, we want the organizing committees to use the local expertise that do reside in those venues, and who are the best organizers for biathlon, probably Anterselva, and I could say the same about Val di Fiemme for cross-country skiing and others. So this is on 26th of January, very good step forward. Ice rinks, we have now the detailed schedules, and we are very reassured. The presentation ended up with a sliding track with a very important step today for Cortina. It is the response to the public tender. This presentation allowed us to reiterate our position, which is unequivocal. First, we from the very beginning felt that this venue was extremely complex in terms of costs, in terms of legacy, in terms of timing, and we have promoted the use of an existing track. We know with certainty that a decision will be made soon, by the 31st of January. Finally, Mark, if you allow me, I would conclude with a very personal remark, which is that it's good to be back in Gangneung, because I had the great honor to be made honorary citizen of the Gangwon province after the games in 2018. So here we are. I'm really truly happy to be here.
I was going to mention that, Christophe, and you took the words. You took the words right out of my mouth. But congratulations. Right, let's go to the calls. By the way, I should remind you we do have English, Korean translation. You can listen online, and so obviously would welcome any questions from our Korean friends about these games here. But let's start with some of those people we've got who already want to ask some questions. So let's start with Graham Dunbar from Associated Press. Graham, over to you. I guess you're probably in Geneva, in which case, good morning to you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Oh, can't hear you. It's the age-old, you're on mute, so... No?
No, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me now? I'm unmuted at my end.
I tell you, yeah.
Can you hear me now? I'm certainly unmuted at my end.
Oh yeah, no, we can hear you now. It was we put you on mute, which I've often wanted to do, Graham, but there we go. Okay, your question, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Not about Winter Youth Games, but it is something topical. The well, the decision from last week from Ice Hockey Federation about trying to hold out the Israeli team for security and safety reasons. I mean, the CAS jurisprudence in the football case that Russia brought 2 years ago was that sports organizations, sports bodies have a duty to organize competitions that have integrity on the field of play and are safe and secure for the athletes. Does the IFC recognize that in what ice hockey is trying to do? And given in Paris there will be events on the streets like road cycling and marathon, what's the feeling about the security challenges to protect the athletes in Paris?
Thanks, Graham. Thanks for that. I mean, as you probably know, I mean, the IOC has been aware and is aware of this situation with IIHF and discussed the matter with the NOC of Israel and the IIHF a number of times in the past few weeks. We made our position very clear. We also, I should remind you that that for the IOC, non-discrimination of any kind is part of the fundamental principles of the Olympic Charter, and we'll always uphold those principles. As the competitions in question were not held under our auspices, I think obviously the more detailed parts of those questions would need to go to them. My understanding is that now that competition is going ahead as normal. So I think as far as that one goes, that's probably as much as we can comment. All I will say on security in Paris is that obviously, and I think maybe Christophe would want to add, but obviously this is always a matter for the local authorities. We don't comment on security for obvious reasons, but we do have, we're in constant contact. We do have very high confidence in the authorities to make sure that these games are safe and secure. Christophe, did you want to add something?
Simply, Mark, that this confidence is built on a report that we have received at the executive board in December, where the prefect of Paris, but also the inter-ministerial delegate reported very precisely on the measures that will be taken during the games. You've seen that in the meantime, the management of Paris Center has been published. At the same time, they are mobilizing all the resources needed to the tune of about 45,000 police forces, security forces the day of the opening ceremony, and for all the remaining days, about 35,000 each and every day, 24 hours a day. So this is a real great effort that is being made here. And Graham, we've seen that after the CADO's report, after the problem in the final of the Champions League, the principle that were laid down afterwards in terms of integration of forces in particular has been very well followed, with the delivery of the Rugby World Cup, which was really without incidents. And more recently, about 1 million people on the Champs-Élysées on the occasion of the turning point between 23 and 2024. So really, these are elements that give us great confidence, Graham.
Thank you very much, Graham. Let's stay in Paris, as it were, with Marc Van Thuyac from L'Equipe. Marc? I think we're having a technical problem this end. Can you hear us? We can't hear you.
Voilà, on y arrive.
Yeah. Please go ahead. Allez-y.
Bonjour, messieurs. Deux questions, une d'ordre général. Lors de la dernière session, certaines personnes avaient évoqué la possibilité de demander une réforme de la charte olympique concernant la limitation des mandats du président du CIO. Ma question, ce serait pour savoir si une telle demande en ce sens a été déposée, et si oui, par qui. Et ma deuxième question, qui s'adresse plus à Christophe, il y a une visite, je crois la semaine dernière, du CIO concernant la candidature, puisque c'est toujours une candidature, de Paris 2000, non pas de Paris, mais les Alpes françaises. Donc c'était pour savoir un petit peu où ça en était concernant Val d'Isère, Courchevel, où il y aurait beaucoup trop d'épreuves, et puis la piste de l'anneau de vitesse, de patinage de vitesse.
I'll take the first bit, Mark. I won't shed too much light on it, I'm afraid, only to say that obviously you'll be clear as to what the President said at the time in Mumbai about those demands, that they needed to be looked at and discussed, and he was flattered by them and so on. But in terms of a demand being, what's the word, deposed, being for a change in the charter ahead of the session, to my understanding, I don't think that has come forward yet. There's still plenty of time for that to happen, but as far as I'm aware, there has been no such text come forward so far. Watch this space, I guess. But Christophe?
Oui, merci Marc. Effectivement, dans le cadre de la procédure dans laquelle nous nous trouvons, ou l'étape dans laquelle nous nous trouvons à ce stade, c'est-à-dire le dialogue ciblé, il y aura passablement de visites en fait, à la fois d'experts, et puis le point culminant, ça sera évidemment la visite de la commission des futures villes hôtes elles-mêmes, probablement entre avril et mai. Effectivement, nous avions des experts dans la région de Courchevel, Méribel, Bozelle aussi, puisque c'est un point clé du dispositif, hein, avec un nouveau village qui sera construit à côté de Brides-les-Bains. Donc c'était important de discuter des différents plans et puis de revoir effectivement le dispositif, notamment par rapport au ski alpin et une partie du ski nordique, sachant qu'il y a eu des championnats du monde, mais que dans un contexte comme les Jeux avec des épreuves supplémentaires, il est important de pouvoir mesurer la charge que ça représente et puis d'évaluer les plans, même si à ce stade, on reste sur les grandes lignes. Donc voilà, c'était une visite parmi tant d'autres qui vont se passer à la fois au Grand Bornand, à la Clusaz prochainement, et puis ensuite dans les pôles du Sud. Donc c'est du travail de longue haleine qui nous attend avec, comme je le disais, une visite de la commission un peu plus tard dans le courant du printemps.
Et l'anneau de vitesse?
L'anneau de vitesse, on n'en a pas parlé à ce stade. Il y a plusieurs, comme j'imagine que tout le monde le sait, il y a plusieurs opportunités pour un anneau de vitesse. On est en train de revoir aussi, parce que c'est très intéressant finalement, le dispositif temporaire qui sera installé à Milan, dans le cadre de Rofiera. Donc voilà, il y a plusieurs options qui seront discutées avec le comité de candidature au cours des mois à venir.
On peut savoir lesquelles?
Lesquelles, c'est des infrastructures temporaires éventuelles avec un site hôte à trouver, hein, sachant que c'est quand même une surface libre énorme, sans piliers qu'il faut trouver, donc c'est forcément des centres d'exposition. Mais il y a aussi d'autres solutions intelligentes qui consisteraient, comme on le recommande du reste dans le cadre de l'agenda olympique, d'utiliser des infrastructures à l'extérieur du pays. C'est une excellente solution et aucun doute qu'on saura trouver soit avec du temporaire ou une structure pérenne à l'étranger la solution la plus intelligente.
Merci Marc, ça fait 4 questions je pense.
Ce sont des relances. Et j'en ai même une cinquième.
Merci.
Je me retiens de demander quels sont les pays étrangers.
Let's go now, and you maybe want to get your earpiece ready. See, we have a Korean journalist, Seun Park from Gangwon Ibo. Very happy to have you ask a question. Please, if you could join us, that would be great.
Thanks for the briefing. And I am Seun Park from Gangwon Ilbo representative local newspaper in Gangwon province. And I was wondering about the Olympic legacy of Pyeongchang 2018. I think the most important legacy of Pyeongchang is the progress of peace on the Korean Peninsula and the world. And in that regard, what are the implications for the 2024 Gangwon Youth Olympic Games? And how do you think about the participants and the people of Gangwon province will uphold the legacy of Pyeongchang 2028?
Thank you very much, and I'm sorry I misunderestimated your English, but thank you very much for the question. So, Christoph, legacy of Pyeongchang.
The first one, you're right that the games is always an opportunity, as I said at the very beginning in my introduction, to create that unique moment where the world gathers as one in a great community, and this is something that we all remember in 2018, and this is something that again will be displayed tomorrow. Now, how do people in the Gangwon province should estimate the legacy of the games in 2018? I would hope very favorably, for the reasons I mentioned before. Not only you have created a formidable sporting infrastructures which pay dividends, you have also programs with the Legacy Foundation and the museum in Pyeongchang that works extremely well. And for all those that have not visited, please do so. It is very exciting. It is very interactive. You have a human capital in terms of event delivery that matches anywhere else around the globe. And this expertise will be displayed once more in what is going to be done here in the next few days. And also, as I mentioned, the infrastructure, the train in particular, which is also one of the great legacy. So once more, this province will have the opportunity to shine. It gives me the opportunity to mention that we have agreements with 145 territory for the distribution of these games. And this is TV, but more so digital. And can I say that the coverage will be extremely high, which is very pleasing in the context of the youth game. So you see, all in all, the legacy of 2018 lives on. And back to what I said, this is why these games are very relevant and make sense.
Thank you very much for your question. Obviously, as I say, I would encourage our Korean friends and colleagues to ask questions as well. Thank you very much. Let's go now, though, back to Europe and Carlos Groman from Reuters. Carlos?
Yes, good morning.
Good
afternoon.
Yeah, good whatever to you too. Please go ahead.
Good. If I can follow up on Mark's question regarding next year's presidential elections, given that there is no official request yet to include that in the session, as you just said, would it be correct to assume that the presidential campaign will start after the session of Paris 2024 and for that 1 year? Because usually it used to be a little longer than just 1 year. Thank you.
I honestly think that's very difficult for me to answer. I think you have to kind of take a tour d'horizon and see what people are doing and have to talk to people. It's not for us to say it starts here, it finishes here, or not at the moment. So I can't actually come to an answer for you with that. And as I said before to Mark, we don't yet have to Graham, we don't yet have potentially a text that may or may not be discussed. So it's all very hypothetical. I think you'd appreciate I'm unlikely to comment on what is a kind of a hypothetical case. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Let's go to Yoshida Takafumi, who, Kyoto, I guess you're in Geneva. Please go ahead, ask questions.
Could you hear me? Is that right?
Please go ahead.
Yes. Next week will be the 100 years anniversary for Olympic Winter Games, and how do IOC review and assess this 100 years? And of course, there is a climate problem right now, and what would be the next step for this Winter Olympic Games?
Well, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to read on the Olympic review, where there is the last one where we speak a lot about the Winter Games, the past and the future especially. What I can say about the past is that we should all be very proud to have been able to contribute, at least over the last years, to something that is extremely positive and allows us to project in a longer term future with, as you know, interest as far as 2038. Now, of course, if you go back to Chamonix, there will be celebrations, of course. This was the kickstart at the time, and we will certainly not review every game's edition, but you certainly had one common element when it comes to games in general is that they have been adopting the trends and the changes in society at large. This is an event that has over time adapted itself to always changing circumstances, and this is the agility of a movement that, although we only deliver every 2 years, respectively, the games of the Olympiad and the Winter Games, we have to adapt to fast pace. And the expectations from you and from the rest of the world is that in many, we actually blazing the trail for other sporting events, other events at large. And this is again what we will display here for the youth games and in the future. So we look at the past with pride. We look into the future with confidence.
Thank you very much, Christophe. Okay, let's go now. Konstantin Vavarik, don't know where you're calling from, but please go ahead. Happy to have your question.
Kiev, Ukraine, yeah, and thanks for the opportunity. My question would be regarding Olympics and peace and regarding athletes with Russian and Belarusian passports there. So the IOC stated that it will review the list of athletes submitted by the international federations and will seek independent evaluation regarding their support of the war. Could you please go into more detail regarding the process of this review and evaluation as to who, when, and how will do it exactly? And does the necessity of such a review mean that when IOC previously stated that recommendations to federations worked well, that was indeed not very true? Thanks.
Hi, yeah, no, to take your second point first, that's not the case. Obviously, the previous competitions were being run under the auspices of those federations, and so we set them guidelines and we were content with what they'd done. Obviously, when we are responsible for our own competitions, which we will be run by the IFs, but under our auspices in Paris, then we have to be doubly sure because we have the full responsibility. So that's why we will be taking these extra measures on top, which I think will make everyone feel confident and much more comfortable with the situation. In terms of the process, I can only talk broadly because I don't have the detail, but we are in the process of identifying and appointing independent analysts with a reputation for good work, with good governance and so on, who will go through each of those athletes to make sure that they don't breach our guidelines. And I think you can have some confidence that those people who have qualified will have already been through one process, and then we'll be going through a second process run by the IOC, but using an independent organization.
Thanks.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, going to have two more questions, I think. Robert Livingston from GamesBids, please fire away.
Thanks, Mark. So there were reports out of Japan that they're in discussions to host the first esports games. I think the year they were talking about was 2026 or 2027, but whatever the case, can you comment on that any further or confirm that possible?
I think, and I'm looking around the table, that we had discussions with a number of NOCs. I think they expressed an interest, but I don't think it's gone any further. They're certainly not a preferred partner or anything like that. So it's very, very much in an early stage. They expressed an interest. We've heard that interest. I think that's probably as much as I can say on that. Would that be correct?
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Robert. Okay, let's go, as we are here in Gangneung, let's finish with a question from a Korean journalist, and apologies, I think I can see Bomi Im from Donga, which is, I think, the second or third biggest Korean newspaper. So please go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hear you faintly, but yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So it is true that everyone welcomes that Gangwon 2024 can use all the facilities that we've used in Pyeongchang Olympic back in 2018. But it is also true that most of the Winter Olympic facilities, including ours, cannot be effectively used or keep its function before, because its use is very limited. Like this kind of international competition is not that common, so everybody worries about its function. And do you think that this kind of reusing senior Olympic facilities in youth Olympic Games is going to be work like a pattern in the future Olympics?
Thank you very much. I didn't. It was quite a bad line, but I think, were you talking about one specific venue? Were you talking about the sliding center, or?
It was in general.
No, all the venues.
In general.
Yeah.
Oh well, yeah. So,
Yeah.
Christoph.
Yeah, you see, it's a very valid point that you raise here, and we have to see any investment in a sporting venue not necessarily as something that can be used each and every day for high-level competitions. The venues are very important for sports development and access for leisure sports as well. And what we are always pushing for in terms of vision for the usage of venues is to have these three components. One of the things here that works well is the DREAM program, where you host a number of participants from countries which do not necessarily have the same capacities than you do here. But nevertheless, it's true that regular usage is definitely something that any of the owner, for that matter here, the public authorities in Gangwon, has to really look from these three angles: hosting international competitions, and this one here, the YOG, will be another boost to also encourage those venue owners to bid for international competitions. Then it's very important for the training of national athletes, and also to have the ice rinks and other venues open for leisure sport. What we promote through the Olympic movement is not only the very top level sport, but it's for each and everyone to practice and to be active. So this is the vision that anyone should have, and definitely something we have shared with the organizers and the authorities here.
Thank you very much for that question, and I hope you'll enjoy the Youth Winter Olympic Games as much as I'm sure we will. Thank you very much, Christoph, and look forward to seeing some of you in person and others later in the year. Thank you very much indeed. Bye-bye.
Thank you. 감사합니다.